or the consciousness system is trying to help you. It's trying to help everybody evolve because your evolution is its evolution, right? You decrease entropy, the whole system gets a decrement in entropy. So the system is generated to help you. You're here in a learning lab. This is a learning trainer. The learning trainer has all kinds of devices to make you succeed. It wants you to succeed. So you also can get help. You have guides. And what do these guides do? They don't take care of you. They don't tell you what to do. They're not there to protect you. What they're there to do is to nudge you to grow up, to do the right thing, to help you find opportunities. You heard of synchronicity. You know, things just happen to work out in some amazing way that is unlikely to have happened. Well, there's a fair amount of manipulation going on at this level to set up those opportunities, the things that you need. Sometimes it saves your life if you pay attention. Sometimes it just is convenient, and sometimes it slaps you right in the face because that's what you need to grow up. So part of your visit here is manipulated because you had a plan when you came here. Part of it is just random. We're interacting with each other, and we're very unpredictable. It's hard to tell what we'll do. So there's a lot of randomness in it too, but that just makes the pot richer with the randomness, more choice, more potential. You also have the system, and when you personalize that system, you interpret that as a guide. But you'll get that same guide over and over. You can make friends. They have personalities. They'll even tell you jokes. It can be a very real, children have friends, right? Very good relationships with non-physical friends. And these aren't just fake imagining things. They're really having a relationship with somebody, okay? And it's a very consistent one. That same friend, it's not like they come back next day and they're totally different, It's a consistent thing. The system is there working to help you, and this is how they nudge you. You can, if you are growing, and if a guide or if the system nudging you in those directions can be helpful to you and help your growth, then you'll have one, or two, or three, however it takes, however many you need that you can keep busy. You'll get that. On the other hand, if you're not growing at all, and you don't have much potential, and you're not doing anything, then nobody's going to, the conscious system isn't going to waste its time trying to nudge you if the nudging doesn't work. You're going to have to grow up a little first. That's why a lot of those incarnations just go in and out and in and out and in and out for a while without any planning or anything else because they just need experience. They're just beginning at it. They have to get experience and kind of get a little going for them before they can be helped much. Okay, these guides, they have independent personalities, sense of humor. They're not perfect. They can make mistakes too. It's not a perfect system. Again, the system is not perfect. Synchronicity, basically they'll take any shape and form that it means. They'll talk to you by somebody that you know or don't know. They can take any kind of shape. They can help you follow the plan. If you've got this plan and what you're supposed to do is be at a certain place or meet a certain person at a certain time and you're not doing it, they can kind of nudge you in that direction to get you there. That's the synchronicity thing. All right, your higher self, your oversoul, you have all these things, right? These are all metaphors. Your one thing, your consciousness. Your consciousness. And that consciousness is growing and it's accumulating. It's lowering its entropy. And that consciousness is in here, that's you. And you represent that consciousness. And that consciousness can project into this trainer any sort of different kind of personality it wants. Whatever it thinks can best lower its entropy. This is all about evolution. So it invests in what works. It doesn't invest in failures. So if you're working and you're lowering your entropy, then there's a good chance that maybe, they'll use your same energy form and personality type again because it's successful. If not, maybe not. Maybe it's one shot and they decide, well, that didn't work. Let's not invest there anymore. So you're talking about your own, how immortal are you? Well, you are immortal not as a personality here. That's developed out of your interactions in this physical reality. You may be 1,000 or 10,000 different personalities here. That's not the point. Your consciousness is what's immortal. You're a part of that. You're a contributor to its evolution. So you think of yourself not as Susie Smith, Think of yourself as a fragment of the larger consciousness, which is a fragment of everything. That's really what you are. You have to think of it in those terms. Okay, so your higher self and those sorts of things are really you. It's all you. You are this consciousness. You are your higher self. That's your consciousness. It's your larger consciousness being, of which you are a piece. You're a fragment. Okay, negative entities. You can have negative entities. They can lower their entropy to some degree through control and power, okay? Where you learn and grow and become more loving and use your free will, they use their will for control. You know, they control themselves. In other words, they lower their entropy through controlling. And the limitation to that is severe. So negative things can lower their entropy, get more power, up to a point, and that's it. They kind of top out there, and they just don't get much more than that. It's a very low headroom. It's a bad job. Up the other side, the positive side, there's basically no limits. You can continue to expand, you continue to learn, you continue to lower your entropy until basically, you get to the point where you are one with all. You become aware of the whole thing, and you are part of the whole thing. Now you're still you're still your consciousness. You still have the data set of all the things you've ever done and all the lives you've ever had. You still have that unique data set, but you also have at the same time awareness of the whole. All of reality is your playground now. You're a citizen of the bigger reality. So you grow up that way. So you can have negative entities, but it's not impossible, but it just doesn't go very far. Now, parasites, other lowlifes. I told you that the things that are out there in that reality frame are broader and more of them than there are here. You have parasites, you have things that are unpleasant, and they are often attracted by fear. So fear attracts those things, and then that just, of course, makes the problem worse. So it exacerbates the issue. But there are problems. Now, I don't want to frighten you. Basically, your explorations are safe, okay? We're kind of protected here in this end division and the things that we do, and it's a very unlikely chance that you're going to go out and run into trouble. The chance is not zero, but I liken it to like going outside, walking down the street, walking through your city park. What's the probability when you walk through the city park in the middle of the afternoon that somebody's going to jump out from behind a bush, hit you over the head, take your wallet, steal your clothes, whatever they want? What's that probability? It's not zero. It has happened. People get mugged in parks even in the daytime. And it's not zero. It can happen, but it's very, very low. Now, you go at 2 in the morning, and the probability goes up. But this is the same way. It's a very, very low probability that something is going to happen to you. It's not impossible. Don't let that frighten you. Fear is the enemy. Fear will draw that to you. You tend to materialize what you fear. If you're afraid you can't get back, a wall springs up in front of you. If you think somebody's going to get you through that hole, you get a hook in your hand. These things happen. In that reality frame, what you think is what you get. It doesn't work that way here. We have a little bit of that here. That's the power of positive thinking and our tent. We can also manipulate things, but there, you don't have this rule system, so it's very immediate. So the thing, again, is get rid of the fear. Get rid of the beliefs. And if you have fear, then maybe this sort of thing is not for you. So it's not necessarily something that everybody ought to do. Again, you don't need it. This is extracurricular. Next. We talked about that. If you have a limited conceptual base, you can't interpret accurately. Lack of understanding. Tools are arbitrary. I think we learned that. We used all kinds of tools today, from blowtorches and vacuum cleaners and jars with lids and the sun, and you can make all these tools up. Energy bars, they're all metaphors to help you focus your intent. It's easy to get confused, whether you're in a probable future database, the actualized history, the unactualized history, all that data's out there, and if you don't have good focus, you don't know what you're getting. That's from your inexperience. You don't know that you have to specify the output format of the data, so you get it in some jumble and it doesn't make any sense to you. Remember, we modified it as black on white, then white on black, then different colors, and we made it graphs. You can do it any way you want, but you need to tell the database how you want to see the data. Okay, you might not understand that access is dependent on the probable change in entropy for the whole system. We just discussed that. And psi uncertainty is a rule that says that keeps the integrity of this reality system. Okay, next. Okay. How do you get ready? So the thing is that, this won't happen to you until you're ready. Now, if you're not ready for these trips, what'll happen is you'll kind of work hard at it. You'll get out of body once, and the first thing you run into is a monster, and he'll scare you half to death, and you'll come back and say, I don't want to do that anymore. Well, who was that monster? That was probably your guide. He says, you're not ready. You have too much fear. Because when that monster shows up and goes, boo, if you squeal and run back, then you have too much fear. If you just stand there and say, what's up, doc, and you just deal with it, then maybe you get to go to the next step. So there's all kinds of little tests and things that you have to go because the system doesn't want you out there with a lot of fear. You're just going to end up worse off rather than better off. So the system is made to test your fear. And if you're very fearful, to limit your access. That's just a natural way the system works. So getting ready is getting rid of your fear, getting rid of your ego, raising the quality of your consciousness. And if you're not ready, those are the things you ought to be doing. You must learn through experience, not through being told. So I can tell you a lot of this, and intellectually you can go, okay, I get it. But that's not the learning that we need. It's not intellectual learning, it's learning at the being level. The fear isn't, well, I'm not going to be afraid, because that doesn't work. When the thing jumps out and goes boo, it's not your intellect that decides whether or not to run. It's something from a deeper place is where your fear comes from. So you can't get this at the educational level, intellect, you have to get it through experience. Again, you have to go there. Intellectual learning is almost irrelevant. Not quite. The intellect can steer. It can give you incentive. It just can't give you an experience. All right, next. You can get to NPR before you're ready. And a lot of people do. A lot of people kind of accidentally do it. Some are kind of born in it, to it. Sometimes it's because of your past lives. You've kind of earned that, but now this time you've kind of slacked off and you really don't know what you're doing anymore. So there's lots of reasons for that. Sometimes it can actually, sometimes it's drugs, right? Sometimes there can be a modification to your brain by accident, tumors, other things that will happen to reproduce a structure like you would build if you had more quality. So there's all kinds of, but these are all in the margins, right? This is all in the, the 1,000th to 1% kind of margins. It happens. And when it does, it kind of makes the papers because these people are really strange and they have all these experiences. So you can get there, but what good is it? Like you can get into a great library and all you can do is read comic books. It's like, what good is it? If you don't earn it, if you don't get there because you develop yourself, you reduce your fear and ego, then there's just not much you can do with it. It becomes an experience, and for a lot of people, it becomes terrifying. It's an experience they can't handle. So it's not good to try to push it. Yeah. Well, we'll go on to the next one. Okay. All right, gaining access. For the most part, it's a self-policing system. That's good news, isn't it? The people that shouldn't have access generally don't have access. The way you get access is by growing up, becoming more love-like. And those kind of people, you don't mind having access. So it's a self-policing system. Basically, the people that you don't want to have these abilities can't get them anyway, unless that few that goes up the negative path. There's not a lot of those in our culture. Gaining access, like meditation, is a matter of not doing rather than doing. You don't need to learn new techniques. You need to unlearn ego, beliefs, and fear. You need to be differently. You get access and you are able to accomplish things there if it ends up with a net plus up for you and everything connected to you. It's not just about you. So, if you say, well, I could do this wonderful thing, but, it may hurt a few people, it's their problem, then that's not good. Even if it pluses you up a little and it pulls somebody else down, the net is negative. You don't get to go. Okay, next. Okay, part of the problem is expectation, so forget everything you've read about NPMR. Tools are personal and not fundamental. A lot of places have tools. The tools then become sacred, right? The tools, some of you probably are into Reiki, and Reiki people have their tools and their symbols. And the tools work, like our energy thing for healing. They work. It's not that they're bad, it's just that they're tools. But you don't want the tools to become sacred. You don't want this group and their tools to want to kill that group with their tools because their tools are different, So this group with their pentagram, or this with their pentagram and this with their cross, you don't want them to fight each other because they have different tools and things that they do. It's just tools. So don't get too wound up about the tools. They're personal. And if you try to use somebody else's tools, it's going to limit you. Your own tools should suit you. Okay, so you'll have a system of, you have a system like the Hindus, and they have a system of tools, and part of their tools are chakras and other sorts of things. Those are also metaphors. And those tools and systems are valuable and they're fine, but if it's not your tool and you try to work it, it's probably going to be suboptimal. Make your own tool. If you're the happy housemaker, then using that vacuum cleaner to clean up bad energy may just be your thing. If you're Buck Rogers, then the laser gun is for you. Give Buck Rogers a vacuum cleaner and he just can't do anything with it. It just doesn't fit. So you have to make up your own tools that fit you, your personality, because it's your consciousness that you're trying to focus. So whatever tools work for you, and you can work a tool for a while and suddenly you don't like it, and get a new tool. Change your tools. You can use the Hindu tools or the Reiki tools or the Christian tools or whatever. They have different tool sets, but you're using somebody else's tools. I suggest you make up your own tools. I just ran through a whole bunch of tools here that you guys could use. There were tools about going forward and backward in time and forward and rewinding and blowtorches and whatever. Just make them up. Venture forth, see what happens. Be fearless, be detached, skeptical. You always have to be skeptical. Observe, study, experiment. Have your own experience. Don't try to duplicate somebody else's. Stop judging, second guessing. Take the long view. 20 years, you keep working at this, you might be good at it. One of the problems is that people say, well, I tried meditating, for a week and nothing happened, so I gave up. That's like saying, well, I wanted to be a concert pianist and I played the piano for a week and, I just didn't make the grade. You have to be more consistent and you have to work harder than that. Okay, next. Making contact. When you're going to talk to non-physical beings, don't go into a soliloquy and long, complicated things. Start out with yes, no type stuff, because it's act like a lawyer. To ask your questions that you can get simple answers, because in the beginning, simple is better. You can interpret them better. I mean, how hard is it to interpret yes or no, right? That's an easy interpretation. Don't say, well, tell me all about where you live and what you do. You're just going to get all this stuff and you won't be able to interpret it. You need to be able to narrow your focus. So that's one thing that I would say. Then listen. Don't just keep talking. Be a good listener. The only way to be a good listener is to be able to control your mind enough that it just stays blank, open, and receptive. If you got that jabber going on, you can't listen. You have to get rid of the noise. So that's why you start with meditation, because that's the training tool for learning to get rid of all the jabber. You need a quiet. You need to be able to rest in that void where there's nothing. There's no reality system. There's nothing physical. There's nothing else going on. It's just your mind is quiet and still, and you can make it stay that way for as long as you like. You have control over your consciousness. Then you can listen. You can ask a question, and you can just sit there and be still and quiet for the answer. So that's part of listening. You can't listen if it's noisy. All these things I think we've talked about. If you're talking to another entity, don't judge it right away. It's the same thing. Don't judge that. Say, well, I talked to this entity and he said that he was a soldier in such and such a place, and you go study that, and well, I don't know that makes sense. He had the wrong color uniform on, or this kind of stuff. You're judging on details. The details don't mean anything. Stay with it for months and months till you get to know this person, until you really exchange something meaningful and significant. Don't jump to conclusions. Just be a scientist. Be patient. Persist. Be fearless. Ask who, what, and why. Something happens to you, ask about it. Then listen. Don't just jump and run or have a reaction. Find out. Okay, next. Okay, remote viewing. I think we talked about this. It's basically the same as anything else, like making contact or healing. You know, the tools and the process appear different, but it's all the same thing. You're just talking about getting into these databases and not having the noise in your mind mess you up. Okay? All the same things get in the way. Healing, it doesn't matter. The distance doesn't matter. It didn't matter that Keith's dad was in the UK. You know, that makes no difference. It wouldn't even matter if he wasn't in this reality frame. You know, you could be working on somebody that is in some other PMR, some other place. It's all netted. It doesn't really matter where they are. You don't have to have anything but a unique ID. Time is a variable. We did that. We went forward and backward in time. It's always handy to go back to the time when the illness just started and work on it there. It's easier to cure something when it just starts than it is after it's become chronic. You can go back and start working, even if that was 5 or 10 years ago, and you can be amazed at how much more effective you can be working earlier in time than later in time. And then you can progress it out like we did to see what's the prognosis for change. You're working on somebody who's paralyzed and can't walk, and what's the prognosis that they can walk? And you can say, given, you have to specify, or you garbage in, garbage out. You know, given that they do this, this, and this, and this, or I do that, that, and that, and that, what's their prognosis in a month, in 2 months, in a year, in 5 years? And you can see. You'll get the data back. Now, if it's future, it doesn't have to happen, but it's the higher probability. Don't force your will on other people. You are not in charge of running anybody else's life but your own. That's important. You will get shut out of the system if you don't do that. Parallel processing. You can learn, the way you should learn to parallel process, if you learn to meditate lying down, then learn to meditate sitting up, and vice versa. Once you can meditate successfully sitting up and lying down, learn to meditate standing up. Once you can learn to meditate standing up, learn to meditate standing up on a bus at lunchtime. Keep expanding your ability so you don't need these special little considerations, like it has to be dark, it has to be quiet, you know, you have to go through all this ritual to get there. Try meditating in all kinds of situations. There's a fellow in this room that I know meditates while he drives a truck. You probably want to know where he drives so you can avoid that. But people can do that. You can parallel process. No comments from the back? Yeah. Anyway, you can learn to do that. It's just a matter of learning the parallel process. You've got this reality going on. You've got another reality going on. You probably have, you know, some percent of your attention here, some percent of your attention there. You can do them at the time, parallel process, or you can swap back and forth. You can do this a little and that and a little, and this one a little and that and a little. And you can do that quickly enough that you can be talking to somebody or listening, having a conversation, and at the same time healing them. There's no reason why you can't do both of those at the same time, or gathering data on something else. It's just practice. You get habituated to certain things. You get habituated to certain rituals, and they limit you. They're just beliefs. It's another belief that ties you down. Oh, I can't do that, you know. It takes me a half an hour to get into an altered state, and then it takes me a long time to make sure that that energy body's not in my imagination. Remember, it's the real Uncle Sam. You know, I need to know that it's the real, the real energy body. It's just a metaphor. You know, these things can be done much more quickly than you think, and much more effectively. All right, fear, negative beings. Sometimes these are one and the same. When you get out into the out-of-body reality anyway, the things you run into, like the wall and the hook, that is your fear. Those beings, those monsters, are your fear. Coming and manifesting, because in that reality frame, what you think, you manifest very easily. Here it takes a lot more trouble to manifest something. There, it's easy. manifests very quickly. Fear allows a negative person, if there's a negative being, whether in this reality or another, and they're trying to give you negative energy, and you are afraid, that just sets up a conduit. You just build a pipe between you and them for that negative energy to roll down. It's your fear. Your fear is the handle by which you can be manipulated. Fear is like a kick me sign, you know. There's all sorts of entities out there that will take advantage of you if you're fearful. It's very unlikely anything's going to hurt you. Fear will ruin your ability to interpret your experience accurately. Fear will inhibit your ability to learn and grow from that experience. And gaining access is a self-balancing situation. You generally don't get to where you don't belong. You're not going to end up in a scary place because you don't belong there. The system is kind of looking out for you. So don't be frightened. Go do it if you want to explore, expand. Okay. Staying balanced. This is important. Some people spend more time in the non-physical than they do in the physical. Some people are the opposite. A lot of people are the opposite right in our culture. Some cultures it goes the other way. You have to stay balanced. You have to remember why you're here. You're here in this physical reality to learn, to grow, to interact with people. You know, buzzed out someplace else all the time negates that purpose, what you're here for. Okay, you have to stay balanced between the two. Most of us are unbalanced the other way. We're only in the physical. We have no sense of the larger reality. So that's unbalanced as well. It's good to find a nice balance. Concentrating on whether it's PMR or NPR a whole lot more than the other is definitely out of balance. If you got to be out of balance here in one way or the other, you ought to be out of balance to the physical because that's why you're here. This is the growing place. This is where you have traction. Okay, again, it may help you understand the larger reality. It's not fundamental to your purpose. All right, go on. So what do you need to know about the future? Absolutely nothing. Don't worry about the future. You'll run into all these people that say, you know, terrible things are going to happen in 2012, you know, and this is that, and there's the, you know, and the rapture and this and that. It's all fear-based. It's all about fear. And what does fear do? It manifests itself. So stop worrying about 2012. You know, we don't want to create a monster here where none exists, do we? Fear is the enemy. You have all of this stuff, a lot of it out on the internet. It's all very fear-based. Just leave it alone. You don't need to go there. You need to just live in the present and follow your intuition. If you do that, you'll be wherever you're supposed to be when whatever is going to happen happens. That's it. Accept that and then let it go. All right. Most common barriers. Well, we've been over a lot of these. Belief is a big one. Fear, expectation. Okay, these are some of the things that are your basic beliefs. We talked about motion, physical process, these things you believe, so you have to do that. The reason you have to use that energy bar is because that's process. If you don't have process to do, your mind can't comprehend that you can affect anything. So you need this tool that shoots light because that's the process that does the effect, that allows it to happen. It's a belief. Okay, you know, and you can use any tools. You don't need energy coming out of a bar or white light. You know, you can use a little fairy wand with a star on it. You know, and you can sprinkle fairy dust. That works too. If that's your tool, it'll work. Or you can use special symbols, you know, and they will work if they're your tool. Just don't invest in them. Don't invest your ego in them. People believe that they're separate from everything else. So here we are, and we're separate, and now we've got this oversoul, and it's separate, and we got our higher self, you know, and it's separate, and there's the consciousness system, and it's separate, and, you know, then there's all the people, you know, and they're all separate. You know, everything's separate, and we put everything in its own pigeonhole. That's just our habit, because in this rule set that we're in, everything's separate. So we get in that habit. It's not like that. Everything is really one. It's all one thing, and that's a difficult thing to learn. But these are just cultural beliefs that the physical is the source, is fundamental. You know, it's the primary thing. You know, any scientist will tell you that's true. You know, that's a belief that keeps you from interpreting and understanding when you have that belief. because then you have to have a silver cord coming out of the middle of your back because you have that belief. And there's a lot of other restrictions that you get from that belief, you know, that you have to do something to change something. Well, if you don't do anything, nothing will change, right? I mean, everybody knows that. That's the way it works here. Again, that's why we have to put our energy bar tools and we have to do things with it. That's why we need those tools to focus our intent, because our intent won't work without them. Our intent says, that won't happen. You know, if you don't go anywhere, if you don't travel, if you don't use a tool, if you don't do something, nothing can happen. And if in a belief you believe nothing can happen, nothing will happen, because your intent says nothing will happen. Then it becomes just a wish. There's a difference between a wish and an intent. A wish is, I'd like this. An intent, you have to really focus your consciousness on that thing. And you can't do that if you believe that that thing is impossible. Those two are incompatible. So the belief gets in your way. Immediate feedback we get in this reality frame tends to make us very impatient. We do something and we expect a response. And if we don't get a response, we may do it again, we still don't get a response, we leave, we go someplace else. You know, that's just the way our reality is here. That will give you a problem in the non-physical. You need to be more patient. You need to spend months doing something before you judge whether or not you should walk away. Months. It's not quick. Here's the belief of all the beliefs that takes the cake. It's, I know almost everything. I hardly have any fears at all, and I don't have any beliefs. I've had a lot of people tell me that. You know, you have beliefs that you don't know that you have. There's all these cultural beliefs, things that are just ingrained at the bone and sinew level that you just believe because it's in the air, it's in the water, you breathe it, it's in everybody you know. It's just your cultural beliefs, like some of these things we just talked about. And you have those, and they're hard to root out because they are obviously true, because you can't consider anything else. Those are the beliefs that do you a lot of harm. Okay, here's the last slide. I always use this last slide. You are in the position now, the same position I was when I first ran into Bob Monroe. When I first went out to Bob Monroe's, my big question was, you know, is this guy nuts or what? You know, is he for real, or is he just trying to sell books, or what's going on here? And you have to be in that position. The only way not to be in that position is if you have the experience and have been there and done that, and you know that it's real because you've done the experiments. Otherwise, it's just in your intellect, and you have to look at me and you have to say, do I believe him or not? Don't do either. Don't believe me, don't not believe me. Just hold it as a possibility. Be skeptical, but be open-minded, and then go find out for yourself. That's the only way you'll know, is to experiment and find out for yourself. So, you know, when it comes down to it, really what this talk and my books are about isn't so much about, you know, the things that you can do and all the fun places you can visit and how to heal and all the rest of it. It's basically about you developing a spark or a drive or an interest in finding out for yourself. Because if you don't do that, then all the rest of it, you know, in 2 or 3 weeks, you'll forget all about this and it'll all fade and it won't mean a thing. So that's my hope for all of you. It's not that you believe a word that I say, but that you go out to challenge it with skepticism and an open mind. If you do that, eventually, if you stick with it for months and not just say, well, I tried it once and it didn't work, you will find out. And then the knowledge will be yours, and the wisdom will be yours, and it won't be a matter of belief. It'll be a matter of your experience. Always get evidential data. Well, that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Next slide. What do we have next? We have a good one next, right? There, that's it. That's questions. Thank you. That's what I look like when I take off my human skin at home.
I had a couple of quick questions.
Okay.
One is, if it's something like a blood disorder or blood pressure, how would you see that as opposed to some problem with the heart?
Well, that's a good thing. Things that are systemic. Let's say somebody has a cold. You know, systemic things usually show up because they're generally not life-threatening. If it's a cold, it's not life-threatening anyway. And what you'll see is that the whole energy body is just a light gray. You know, so what that means is that it's all over, but none of it's really serious. That's how you see systemic sorts of things. So if you got high blood pressure, you might see, particularly the blood pressure affects the heart. You might see that the heart is a problem, but then you might see that that radiates. So you might see a gray area around the heart, and then you might see strings coming out of it, and you interpret that as perhaps the arteries sort of thing. So it's different pictures, and you'll get different pictures than I get because, you know, it's your interpretation of the data.
Okay, the other thing is you mentioned, you know, once you've gone through this exercise with finding something and you want to practice the healing, you said do it over and over and over. Do you just do the, like, sending the light rather than removing something so that...
No, do it all. Try different things. You have
so you
to,
see the illness every time you read
yeah,